Bam, guys, what is going on? This is your boy Narik and Ken is with me again here on the 62nd edition of the Breaker the Base channel. And thumbs up to everybody who's been supporting us and catching up with the views and everything. And we would like to surprise everybody by taking a step back and looking at the classic movie monsters that started the whole horror genre as we know in movie cinema. Um, that was pretty good for one, not even breathing. But anyways,
You get that neck hole. That's what you're doing. You're breathing through that neck hole.
So come on, Ken, let's go ahead and break it down for us. Who are the classic movie monsters?
Oh my gosh, we have to go back to the Wayback Machine. Way back. We got the original Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, and the Creature from the Black Lagoon are pretty much your core movie monsters, I guess you could say. Your classic movie monsters.
Yeah.
Some people say the Universal monsters. I guess that's actually Universal really has coined that one because they actually own all the rights to every name I just put. Universal Pictures owns. So they've outlived everybody and outlived all them other places to own the rights to all those movies. And we're talking back to 1931, 1933. Some of the earliest of our characters, like Frankenstein, is probably the oldest one. The Wolfman, 1941. Invisible Man, 1933. 1954, Creature of the Black Lagoon. So you got a lot of core movie monsters that are out there. And we've also seen those monsters come back in several other movies. Like the Monster Squad, which was one of my favorites back in the early 80s, or late 80s. I'm sorry, late 80s. You know, where you finally got some of the monsters all back together again. We were just talking about Abbott and Costello a little while ago. Abbott and Costello meet the mummy.
Yeah,
and they have a Frankenstein. I think they have a Frankenstein one too. I was trying to see. I think I met a lot of people.
I think they even met the Wolfman at one point.
Also, the Invisible Man, and who else were we missing? Phantom of the Opera is kind of borderline because, I mean, it doesn't fall into the core. It kind of falls right outside of that kind of core in the 1940s or late 1950s. So, I mean, you had a lot of different things, but I think our core monster mash is definitely the Dracula, Frankenstein, Mummy, Invisible Man, Wolfman, and the Creature from Black Lagoon. Or what was his name in Monsters vs. Aliens? The Missing Link.
Yeah. Which is actually that's the most recent Creature from the Black Lagoon that we've had in the movie since.
They are working on a Creature from the Black Lagoon movie. I read somewhere that they're actually talking about a new, super updated Creature from the Black Lagoon update. That would be interesting.
Yeah, it would.
Because what made a Creature from Black Lagoon? I mean, you know, it was weird, it was creepy, kind of hokey, but that critter looked pretty wild though. For considering you're talking 1954. So when you had a lot of people, Julie Andrews in there, being one of the predominant stars in there to attract people to it.
I don't know. How did you feel about the whole kind of King Kongish way that they took with it, where the Creature from the Black Lagoon would kidnap some beautiful dame, and he wouldn't hurt her, but you know, and
he was lonely. He was lonely, living in that Black Lagoon with nobody around. You know, I mean, there's no other mer creatures around. I mean, you know, can you blame the guy? I mean, she wasn't bad looking since 1950.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was just, you know, the genre of the movies. I mean, basically we can roll it back. Let's see. Frankenstein, we know the story. Frankenstein makes the monster. The monster comes and, you know, everybody hates the monster. Wolfman, which was state-of-the-art special effects, by the way, in 1941. If you've ever even watched or even some of the viewings of some of the stuff with that, it's pretty wild how literally, a lot of the effects that you see, the practical effects that you see, because there was no digital back then, people. We didn't have CGI. We had literally hours upon hours upon hours of makeup to be applied to a person, for 8 or 9 hours, to get all the costuming and makeup and stuff done. And then, filming all these. The Invisible Man, being able to move stuff around the room like somebody was actually there, but not seeing the magical wires or anything happening. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it really is.
Darn it, that candy cane had a piece of plastic still on it. That's what happens, people. While you're sitting here talking, we're trying to, keep ourselves occupied, and I'm kind of getting my sugar rush on, and I'm sitting here eating these candy canes left over from Christmas. And I grabbed a piece, and it was just full of plastic, and I just pretty much ate all the plastic on it.
I'm going to ask you this, Ken. I want you to be honest with me. How relevant are the Universal monsters to audiences now?
I think people have forgotten. They don't have the gist of the movie monsters. These are your core. These are your core horror movie, sci-fi. Well, not so much sci-fi, but your horror movie beginnings. Now, granted, you have to look at the time too. We're talking from 1931 to 1947, 48, where most of these our core creatures come out. Very few have survived past, aside from notes. Like, we've had movies like Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I think Dracula might be actually the most prominent one.
Dracula has carried on the most out of all the critters. There has been a couple of movies that featured a Frankenstein type critter.
Yeah.
Like in Van Helsing, we had a Frankenstein monster in there, which was kind of key to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That was 2004. We go back to 1987 with the Monster Squad, which brings most of your movie creatures back. But in those cases, they're not comedic or anything. They're purely there for vengeance and evil.
Yeah, they're pretty serious.
They're there for business. And we've had our plus. I mean, we've had some pretty extreme, like werewolves, like American Werewolf in London was pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
You've had again Hinklings in Van Helsing with werewolves. We've
they did come out with a Wolfman remake.
Yep.
And which I will give them, even though the movie was, I liked the movie, although there was some things I wish they could have did better. I will give it to them. They did pay homage with the creature design.
They've kept a lot of the creature design traditional. I mean, granted, now we have way better visual effects. We have way better makeuping and costuming and practical effects. But, every creature that you see in the last 50, 60, 70 years has basically been based off or very similar to one of these 7 original critters. This is what started the horror movie genre. You got to pay respect to the fact that, Bela Lugosi, Christopher Lee, who was the other one I said earlier? Bela Lugosi.
Even think about the show. I know
Boris Karloff.
The show The Monsters.
Yes, love The Monsters. And the Addams Family, but The Monsters was more traditional monster. Where you had vampires, Dracula, Bride of Dracula, Grandpa Dracula.
Yeah.
The Wolfman, the dragons. It had a little bit of everything in there. And it was a comedic version of our classic movie monsters, which was great and wonderful. They've poked fun. We've talked about Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy, Abbott and Costello Meet the Werewolf, and it's still. And the funny thing is that those were the original actors that played those characters.
Yeah.
the Abbott and Costello movies. So that was kind of a neat little bit of trivia. I did not realize they had actually came back and reprised their roles. So that was even way cooler. But we've had so many great characters come out there. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. You know, we get a little bit of the classic vampire storyline there.
Yeah, and the Invisible Man.
With the Invisible Man in this case.
Oh, does Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde count? I think they kind of are like the next generation.
They're kind of like the next step, like the Phantom of the Opera, Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Hyde. What's the other one? Bride of Frankenstein.
Bride of Frankenstein.
There's one more. Hold on, let's see if I can find it here. No, I think that was the next additional batch.
Yeah.
Was all those. So we had 3 more characters to the not so classical, but the second generation of classical movie monsters that come along the way, because then we spawn off even more stuff. You know, back in the late 40s again, early 50s, we start coming in with the Creature, Black Lagoon. What was the other one? Island Earth. Who was in that one? You start getting into the more trippy movie monsters, like we were talking about, like which was ants, the mole people.
The giant tarantula, the shrinking man.
Exactly. We start getting into those little more sci-fi-ish movies, and we kind of step away from the classic movie monsters, and we start moving into the sci-fi type creatures where everything starts going, aliens become popular, invaders, we get The Day the Earth Stood Still. Twilight Zone becomes very prominent later, and you start seeing kind of a mixture of sci-fi and classic, but they use more suspense in it. And it's very interesting that we see that changeover from our classic horror movie monsters, and then we start moving into the sci-fi. There's a huge, and the big change that you notice is also in our technology and our time frames. We go from 1930s, 40s, we enter World War II, 1950s, we start seeing cars and technology, and what happens, space exploration, and then we start getting alien invaded all the time. What's up with that? We start losing our classic actors, that were playing all these characters like Lon Chaney Jr. and all these. And Bela Lugosi was very prominent in there as well. Colin Clive. You have all these, great actors. Vincent Price, the great Vincent Price, who was great. He even carried on the horror genre. He kept it alive, I think, more than anything.
Yeah.
Because he always had those really cool movies and little TV shows, and then we go into like people like Elvira and stuff. We're trying to keep those classic movies, those classic horror movies, even with our core monsters in it, by keeping the audience fixated, of course, on her to watch her, but get back into the movies. And it was, that's what kept that stuff alive. And we're starting to see a resurgence again of our classic movie monsters. We kind of went all space and creepy, and we got invaded. We beat them. They kicked our butt and came back. And now we're starting to see a migration again. You're starting to see more of the horror movies come back with some of our classic monsters in it, which is great. I love it. And then we start, even Godzilla was counted as one of the movie monsters. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Godzilla is on the top 20 list of movie monsters. Of course, Godzilla is just as old as the movie monsters, but in Japan, we don't even think about other countries and their I guess what you consider their core original characters.
Oh, okay.
I was like, wow, because we talked about Godzilla and movie big monsters and stuff last week.
I wanted to know what was so like prominent about the Universal monsters. Is it the fact that they were horrifying, or was it the fact that despite them being horrifying, they had a bit of humanity to them? I mean, what was it?
Well, I think all your older movie monsters, Frankenstein. Look at Frankenstein. He was created, limited capability, very limited, like a child. I mean, basically like a super strong kid. And then everybody feared what they didn't know or didn't understand. And so Frankenstein, did only what he could do naturally, just react and stuff. So you get the humanity in there. You get the mad guy who creates him, brings life to death. And then you have a creature through his known, I mean, just like a baby being born, except he's, 8 foot tall and 600 pounds. Yeah, something like that. The Wolfman, he was triggered by a curse.
Yep.
Tragedy of his own, family line. But, he's trying not to be that Wolfman, but he doesn't have control over it because he becomes animalistic. Another, pretty much in this case, a tragic story. You have a man who's trying to fight it and not be it, and he can't beat it unless he gets shot through the heart with a silver bullet.
Yeah.
Let's see. Vampire, well, he was pretty much his own creation, depending on which storyline you go with. But, Dracula was pretty much not a tragedy. He was more just, he was kind of your dark, evil character, I guess you could say. He was created through war and vengeance, cursed to walk the earth, whatever you want to call it, whatever storyline you want to go through. But he was the one that was never had a humanity in it. He had no humanity.
Yeah.
He was kind of the pure dark bad guy. Creature from the Black Lagoon is simply a evolutionary mystery, and he was lonely. And that's all I can really go with that one, because I mean there's no humanity there. It's just simple, basic instinct. You saw a good looking woman, wanted to hook up, and did his thing. Invisible Man, through science, ends up see which one version of this one they go with, because there's several versions of this out there. Because we had the Kevin Bacon one, but the same problem happened though.
Yeah.
Hollow Man. Let's see here. Yeah, the guy basically. Yeah, it basically, the guy becomes invisible, but the cost is insanity, and ends up going into becoming power hungry. Now that he's invisible, no one can see him. He starts going. He's already crazy because the drug that allows him to become invisible messes with his brain, and he just becomes all kind of crazy.
Yeah, go straight up extreme.
Yeah, he goes straight up nuts. Goes around killing people. He feels he can't be. No one can find him because he's invisible, and he just becomes, insanity with
Didn't Chevy his ability play in the movie where he was invisible?
I don't know.
I think
there is one that he plays, a comedy version of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, actually, there's a reboot. Now, granted, take this with a grain of salt, though. It was announced in February 2016 that Johnny Depp was supposed to be in the reboot in The Invisible Man. I don't know about that. I don't think that would work. I'd choose somebody else. I don't think he could pull it off. But that was something floating around there.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about that one. He's doing too much. Way too much. Let's see here. And Invisible Man was actually written by H.G. Wells. I was trying to Invisible Man 1990s.
Didn't he write War of the Worlds?
Yes. He's written a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
Mostly science, but he's got a lot of other stuff going on too. I love H.G. Wells stuff. That's where you hear the term steampunk comes a lot from. As your steampunky type stuff comes from a lot of his writing. because he did like Time Machine, War of the Worlds.
I love the Time Machine.
Um,
That was one of my favorite books.
which one?
The Time Machine, World. Yeah. In fact, both of them were my some of my favorite books that when I was younger.
Time Machine, War of the Worlds, Invisible Man, The Island of Dr. Moreau.
I seen the movie. I hadn't read the book.
I never read the book. I think I read some of the book before, but not so much. I've probably started on it. I have a lot of really cool books that my grandmother used to own a bookstore, so she would get a lot of these classic books in, and some of them that were really good, like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
I read
one
that
of my favorite books. I've got a very old version of that, which was pretty cool, though. I mean, it's like old hardback book, which is definitely very cool. But we have a resurgence. Like I say, we're going to start seeing. In fact, I was trying to pull up a bunch of the movies right now, because Universal's putting a commitment out there to bring back a lot of the classical movie monsters that we know, like Frankenstein. I mean, we've seen so many versions of it though over the years. I mean, which one is stuck into your head of your classic movie monsters? Which one sticks in your head the most?
Like I said,
and why?
Pretty much the main one I could probably go with for the most part is probably Dracula. It's probably because I've seen so many incarnations of the character. Dracula, and then second to that would be Frankenstein.
Two of your original core movie monsters. But we haven't seen so much. Well, yeah, we have. I mean, you had Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. You had, geez, what all the movies have been there?
There's one, and of course, we already said it, Van Helsing. There was one in Monster Squad.
Yes.
There was one in, I don't know if you've seen the series Penny Dreadful.
I have been interested in that series. I have not seen it yet, but that's a good example of a modern reincarnation of. I mean, granted, it's in the early turn of the century.
Yeah.
But it's bringing back a lot of those classic creatures. In fact, actually, there's a lot of them in there that aren't even per se are classic movie monsters. They're, I don't know, what do you call them? Hybrids?
Yeah. I would say probably.
I like watching that series like Grimm.
Yeah.
We have a lot of monsters and creatures that come from other lore, not American lore, but different countries, England, Germany.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got their classic ones. And for us, we have our core guys. But I was trying to find that list of Universal is supposed to be releasing a bunch of movies.
It's
there it is.
It's The Mummy.
Mummy's the first of that.
Dracula
Tom Cruise
Untold.
not running.
Yeah, the Dracula Untold was the first one. Then there's The Mummy. Then there's The Invisible Man. Another Wolfman reboot. A movie about Van Helsing.
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
And then
and Bride of Frankenstein.
But I think there's going to be more.
Well, I'm sure
definitely going to be more.
Well, we haven't seen anything from Creature from Black Lagoon, Bride of Frankenstein, anywhere in a long time.
Yeah.
Or the Invisible Man is hinted in a couple, but they're trying to reboot everything, which is good. And we were talking about why is Johnny Depp there? I don't like him. I mean, I like him, but he's okay. But he's kind of burned out. His wick's burned. We need somebody new. But the new Mummy movie looks pretty badass.
Yeah, and it looks like, and on this one, it looks like they're serious. Like they're able to. I don't know. Have you seen Dracula Untold?
Yes.
Now you see in that movie, like his powers was like insane. And then it looks like it's probably going to be the same thing with this new Mummy movie, where they're going to have they're going to be like godlike.
Well, the Mummy is changing gender, obviously, but adding a twist to it, which is great. There's nothing wrong with twists. Love the twists. And, and being that they're powerful, is really good too. But you know, you have to kind of balance that power with plausibility. You know,
Yeah.
we get too powerful, they become gods. You can't really stop a god unless you have a magic god killer.
Yeah.
And if you start getting too crazy with it, it kind of, even with suspension of disbelief, being able to unplug your brain saying, you know, they shouldn't be able to fly in space without a mask for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to get it too much. You know, but I mean, what I've seen so far of the new Mummy, it should be a very good movie. Even if it's got Tom Cruise in it, it should still be good. Because Gazelle's in it. And she is the, what's her name?
Sophia Boutella.
Yeah, Boutella.
I've been trying to get her name right because I've been trying to follow her.
Yep. You get Gazelle, now you get the Princess Amanette.
Amanette, yeah.
AKA the Mummy. Oh, no kidding. You know, we were talking about something, we were talking about Jekyll and Hyde, right?
Yeah.
Russell Crowe is playing Dr. Henry Jekyll in the movie.
Oh, okay. So I see he was in the trailer, but I didn't know that he was, you know, okay. And Russell
Now
Crowe,
that's funny. That's funny though, because I don't see that. I'm very curious on how we'll play Dr. Jekyll and the Mummy, first installment Universe Mummy, where the role will be elaborate. So actually, he may come along in other movies. I'm curious about how this new Mummy movie is going to come out. This is very interesting.
I'm interested to see, are they going to make any references to Dracula Untold?
They didn't mention anything pretty much to that, though. But plays in I speak too fast. Yes, it is. The bad guy for Pirates of the Caribbean / James Bond. Xavier Bardem.
Oh, Javier Bardem.
Boy, that's bad. My Spanish must suck bad. He's going to be playing the Frankenstein monster. Wow. So we got Jekyll, the Mummy, Frankenstein's monster, and they're still holding Johnny Depp to the Invisible Man, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Very interesting. Very interesting. And the Mummy's got a good bunch of writers and producers. You know, the two guys who did a lot of the great series are on there. He's going to be in all the movies as a producer. So they're trying to keep a very similar theme on all of the movies with the similar producers. And a lot of them are very similar writers too. So we're looking at two other films after this one, April in 2018 and February 2019. So we might have a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde movie, I'm sure, coming up real soon. Based on that, we're putting in a couple of these players in this movie and the Mummy coming up, which is June 9th of this year. That'll come out. So I'm very interested now. I mean, have you seen any of the special effects or the YouTube clips that they have of the Mummy special effects?
Well, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh man, yeah, they've had some extended trailers out there now, where basically like Dr. Jekyll has caught the Mummy and has got her imprisoned.
Oh, when she was like strung up a little bit.
Yeah, she's strung up, but they actually show where he goes, hunts her, and finds her and brings her back. And then there's like this really badass airplane scene, like when they come back. And the plane's spiraling out of control because I guess she summoned all these birds to hit the plane. So the plane's like spiraling out of control, and they were showing how they did they went on to zero G, the Vomit Comet, and made the plane inside the Vomit Comet look like the plane in the movie with the sarcophagus and everything.
Yeah.
And so when you see them flying around inside the airplane and floating around and stuff, they're actually really doing that. In Zero G.
Really cool.
And that what really caught my. I wasn't sure about this movie, but of course, it's Tom Cruise in there, and he always runs. But I had to. I was like, really that as soon as I saw that zero-G plane thing, I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to be on. I want to see it. And that's very interesting as we've been talking about classic monsters, all the tie-ins that we're seeing. Right now we got Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde possibly cashing in.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very interesting. The things you find when you look on the internet.
Yeah. I'm interested in seeing this too. The same level of effect or the same level of feedback that was given back then towards these same creatures. Do you think that the new generation, especially with all the new way we shoot movies, special effects, and everything, do you think we can get that same feedback by reintroducing these creatures?
I think that's what Universal is trying to do. Is respawn interest in our old characters. I mean, because it's just like a giant circle. You've kind of burned out a lot of stuff. We've had aliens, and right now the big thing's the ghost and possessions and demons and all that. And there's like 50 bajillion movies out there with that same story or same. The only thing that really changes is the creature.
Yeah.
I think probably one of the more original ones recently is probably Krampus that came out, because that's something you don't ever hear. And they bring it out and bring that character out. But it's still a classic horror movie. Something bad happens. But I think them spawning back to the older characters with a newer twist will revitalize and reinvigorate that, care concerned about those characters. Because I mean, we're seeing Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, sure. Mummy, sure. We got the Invisible Man, Van Helsing. I'm curious what they're gonna do with Van Helsing. Obviously, that's gonna be probably a Dracula movie. Kind of guessing on that.
I'm interested in Van Helsing too, because normally he's always portrayed as an old man, and
yes,
and Hugh Jackman's incarnation, of course, he was younger. I mean, he was like a fallen angel or an immortal or something like that. But it was that was like the youngest I've ever seen him.
Yeah, usually, or like in what is it, Dracula 2000?
Yeah,
Van Helsing was old because he had been using the blood of the leeches off of Dracula's body.
Yeah, he was able to survive
to keep himself alive all that time to train the people, the guardian at the next generation.
Yeah,
should something ever happen. Of course, we know it all happens.
I mean, that was actually a pretty interesting idea.
I liked it. I thought that was a smart, clever idea, because he had partially been infected because he got stabbed with the spear that went through Dracula, so he had Dracula's blood in him. So, I mean, through circumstance, we get this whole interesting side storyline, which is great. And I loves it. It's awesome how they come up with some, the sidelines are great as long as they kind of keep to the basics. There's some creative commons in there, make it interesting. Gender bend. Dracula's been male, Dracula's been female. Van Helsing's been actually they have a series on Sci-Fi that's should be coming back up. I hope the summer.
Yeah, it was
Van Helsing.
Yeah.
And they still haven't really elaborated on the whole why she is the Van Helsing, other than her ability to undo vampirism. But, there's an interesting twist. They throw stuff in there, and you're like, well, where are they going to go with it? So, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen had Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Very interesting version of Jekyll and Hyde in that one. Of course, the Invisible Man was in that one too, and so was the Bride of Dracula, basically. So we get a little bit of everything going on. But, I think the idea is right and sound with them coming up with, granted, we start with the Mummy. We're looking at Invisible Man, Wolfman, Van Helsing, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Bride of Frankenstein. We got a list of movies coming to reintroduce the classics with a modern twist to the generation that we have now, which have probably, I would almost say, anybody probably under the age of 30 now probably has not ever seen any of the classic movies.
Yeah, I'd say it's about the same bit.
All they probably know is the more modernized, at least the Dracula wise. I mean, Dracula movies have been out. Bloodsuckers have been popular on TV. They've been popular in movies. So you get that exposure. You know, we've had Twilight. We've had the originals. We had on TV series Vampire Diaries, which was a book series. Twilight was a book series.
Vampire Academy.
Yeah, exactly. We've had a lot of vampire movies in the last 10 years. You know, predominantly throwing out the vampires. Now with the originals and stuff, we start adding more witches and lycans or werewolves into the series, which, you know, keeps them alive, keeps them good, and you understand the balance in that world. You know, so it's time to bring back the cool stuff.
I want to ask you this too, and maybe we might be breaking the mold if I ask this question, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it because that's what I do.
Do it.
Are there any movie monsters currently that you think can be added to the roster of the classics?
Currently,
the only one I could think of off the top of my head that I would like to kind of throw into the mix would probably be the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers.
Well, that fits the bill of a classic movie monster with a twist.
That's probably like the only one I could. That's probably like the only one I could probably think of off the top of my head because I was
struggling to even think of anything right off the top of my head because, I mean, we already have vampires. We got that covered. We already have, you know, classical aliens. I don't think there's really, I mean, that have ever reoccurred in a role. I mean, you could go all the way back to the day the Earth stood still with the big silver robot, but it was only in like one movie. They have said Robbie the Robot, but he was originally in Forbidden Planet, but he wasn't even really a movie monster. He was more of your classic sci-fi. So, and then we think of the Thing. The Thing actually could fall under that.
I agree with that. What about the Blob?
But not the modernized version. The older movie where it was a big killer plant.
What about the Blob?
The Blob,
I think that
should also fall under a classic movie monster. It's been what, 1, 2, 3 versions of that movie so far?
Yeah. Believe so.
3 versions.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You could, because we're thinking more of a humanoid, but you know, respectfully saying, I think the Blob, the Thing, early Thing, would fit that bill. And even more modernized is the Creeper. He's kind of that classic, you know, creepy, you know, something. I don't know exactly how they categorize him, really. I know he's old.
I want to know this too. What's the difference between the older generation of the classic movie monsters versus the new ones? Like the newer ones will be somewhat like Jason, Freddy Krueger, Pumpkinhead, Hellraiser. Like,
exactly.
What is the difference?
That's what I mean. I think stepping outside our classic movie monster mold, those came in with effects. Now, like when you start talking about Sebanites and, you know, from Hellraiser, you know, that was a very large departure into the movie monster because they weren't really monsters per se, were they? Weren't there more demons than anything?
The Cenobites, they're commonly mistaken for demons, but they're not actually demons.
I thought that's what they were calling them. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, they're something else entirely. Because I was doing a little research on them because I was interested to see more about the storyline and about the movies, and I was surprised. I'm like, okay, they're not actually demons. Okay, they're Xenobites or whatever the heck they're called. And they don't come from hell per se. They come from a hellish type universe.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It does get a little weird, especially when you start I mean, I remember getting into it a little bit, but kind of a very, I don't know how it was kind of like a Geiger / Clive Barker / something along those lines. And it was just kind of crazy how they do it with the Cenobites and their storyline. It's kind of it's more of a dimension, I guess, really.
Yeah, like,
Where they're
like
from.
a weird fetish,
because they like pain and stuff, and then some of them. I mean, if you watch it, yeah, it's very, very disturbing, especially when they made the twins. That was like, what?
Yeah, they come up with some weird stuff.
I don't like that.
I'm thinking it is a good thing that they're kind of reaching back and bringing back the old to reintroduce them to the new. One thing I did like about Dracula Untold is you got an origin story.
Yes.
That was next to his powers. That origin story was actually pretty. It could have been a bit better because when I was watching it, I was hoping it would be more political, like bureaucrats and stuff like that, instead of it being like this big army and battles and stuff. But for what it was a pretty good origin story. And I hope, as far as like the Frankenstein, as well as the new Mummy movie, get a decent origin.
Well, they made Dracula a tragic hero.
Yeah, they did. They did.
Instead of being a completely total villain, as in most of the times, or a power hungry, I'm immortal, you're not kind of thing. He literally, wanted to make his place safe, protect his family and protect his kids. And if that's what it required him to do, that's what he did. And he was trying. In fact, for the most part of the movie, he did exactly what he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
And when he lost everything and, he kind of turned to the dark side per se and, let him have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was pretty wild. And that's why I like that movie. I think that was a very good version because it wasn't, a romantic or anything along those lines. It was a story with some historical background that made sense. And I say they made Dracula, in this case, a tragic hero. And I don't know if they're going to do that with the rest of the movies. I'm kind of curious about that. Where are they going to go with like Frankenstein or The Bride or The Invisible Man? I mean, we know that the guy goes insane, or at least in the story in the book, he goes insane because of the stuff that he takes. So, and even in the Hollow Man, he becomes aggressive, power hungry, and very dangerous. So, maybe they could turn the opposite.
I want to, like when it comes to the whole, what I'm more mostly interested in is the creature from the Black Lagoon. I really want to see how they're going to spin that one. Will it be something that was genetically created? Would it be something that's like a freak of nature? Will it be something that, just kind of like a Sasquatch, just a myth, and then it just shows up?
I think a good freak of nature would be great.
And if it's a freak of nature, will it have human-like qualities? Because remember, in the movie King Kong, despite him being an ape and the woman being a human or whatever, he did show affection toward her. It wasn't necessarily like romantic, but he did show affection towards her. So should the new, creature of the Black Lagoon take it that way, or should he be more terrifying?
Well, the original one wasn't really that terrifying per se, because throughout the movie they build the suspense because you know something's there, but you never see it. Halfway through the movie, and then you get the reveal that the thing's gotten on the boat. You know it's on there, and he finds her, sees her, she screams. He jumps in the water and takes her with him to his little secret hideout. And then for us, the movie is trying to get her back from the creature. You know, what happened? Where did they go? Build upon that. What's the creature's motivation in this case? Like I say, the original one, he's probably just all lonely. He's been around for 1,000 bazillion years and just needs some companionship to, play poker with or something. What will happen with this one? Good question. And how much modernized would you like it to look? Would you still like it to be campy, hokey, or would you like it to be, very modernized. I really would. I don't want to see a CGI character though. I'm really getting tired of CGI Andy Serkis crap. I like to see a lot more practical type characters now.
I could see. I want to see a mixture of both, because there will be things that they can do, such as like maybe if he's like walking around, have the practical, but use a bit of motion capture while he's swimming to be bring in the CGI to make it. Because I don't want him swimming like a regular person. I want him swimming like something that was adapted to swim in the water.
Yeah, more natural, like to the environment.
Yeah. But we're going to leave off the first half on that note right there. I was telling this, we can jump into it. In fact, I would like to even continue a part of this conversation in the second half. How about we talk about like best and worst incarnations of Dracula?
We can do that. There's plenty of.
Yeah, there's plenty of
vampires in general, if you want.
I want to go into the vampire one, but not yet, because that one we had to probably separate into two shows. And in fact, why don't we just do like vampires next week?
We could do that,
and we'll just go ahead and just run with Dracula for the day.
I'll wear my daylight ring for next week.
But all right, guys, we then came up to the end of the first show of tonight. You've heard our take on the classic movie monsters, the past, the present, and what we would like to see in the future. And in the comment section below, let us know, what do you think of the classic movie monsters? Should they bring them back, or should they forever be left in the past? If you like the video, go ahead and like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification button to to know when new videos going to be popping up on our feed. And with that being said, join us for the second half of what we got going on tonight, the best and worst incarnations of Dracula.
Dun, dun, dun.
And we will catch you guys in a minute. Heartbeat or something. We'll catch y'all guys in Heartbeat or something. I don't know. We'll catch you guys later.
Just press the button and come back, damn it.